Hey everybody, what is going on? It's your boy Izzo33. Welcome you back to another predictions episode here. We're going to be running down week 7's results as well as my week 8 predictions for the LEC and LCS. Now, obviously these were two big weeks of games here that we're covering in this episode, and we're going to start off with the LEC's Friday results and work our way through to the LCS's Monday results. So, without further ado, let's jump into this week's episode. So we start the week in style with Vitality taking on Rogue, and for this game we went for Rogue, and the result was a Rogue win over Vitality here in a very close matchup. Next up we had Mad taking on Schalke here in a very close matchup. For this one we went with the Mad Lions, and the result was a Mad win, taking our tally on the day to 2 out of 2. We've reached the third game and day here, and it's SK versus Fnatic, and pretty much a whitewash here by Fnatic, which we do predict, and they do go on to win the game out. Next up we have probably the second biggest game of the day, XL taking on Misfits here. For this one we went with Misfits, and do they win? Yeah, they do. They beat out XL pretty easily here and takes our tally up to 4 out of 5. Will we make it 5 out of 5? Let's find out in this next matchup. So the last game on Friday is G2 versus Origin. For this one we decide to go for Origin over G2, who had that struggle week the past 2 weeks, and the actual result was a G2 win over OG, one of their closest competitors, tied at the top of the leaderboard with them. And yeah, very good matchup to say the least. Moving on to Saturday now, we have SK versus Schalke, a bottom of the table clash here that we decide to go for Schalke in, and the result was a Schalke victory here. Next up we have Vitality versus XL in a clash that does have playoff place contention in it, and we go for XL here, and the result obviously was an XL win. Vitality are just on the same level. And finally we reached the 3 big games of the week, starting with Mad versus Rogue, and for this one we do go with the boys in Mad over the boys in Blue, and sadly the boys in Blue beat out the Mad Lions here in a very crazy matchup that was our Anarchy Analysis match of the week. Moving on to the second crazy matchup of the Saturday, we have Origin versus Misfits here, where we go for the Misfits, and sadly OG beat Misfits here, and I'm confused about what sort of rock paper scissors effect is coming into toll here between OG, Misfits and Fnatic, but it does seem that Misfits are coming up short on quite a few of these games. And finally, to end out our LEC week, we have the El Clasico, Fnatic versus G2, where we decide to go with Fnatic, but the actual result was a G2 win. G2 stepped it up here in this week, where they take on 2 of their closest rivals and absolutely dominate them in such convincing fashion. Like, Wonder even brought out a Janna top. Like, that shows you the sort of confidence they're looking to bring against the big teams in the league. But that's it for the LEC. Let's jump over to the LCS. So we have the first game here of the LCS on the Saturday, and it's the big game of the week. It's TSM versus C9, and C9 actually pick up their first loss this season, even if we do predict them to win. Kind of surprising, to be honest. And yeah, a very good and interesting match as TSM absolutely dismantled this Cloud9. Next up, we have Dignitas versus 100 Thieves, a matchup that's got playoff contentions written all over it. For this one, we went with the 100 Thieves, and in actuality, Dignitas lost out and 100 Thieves won. Next up, we have a matchup everyone thought Team Liquid were going to win, and in actuality, CLG actually won this one, even if we do predict a TL win. It's a fairly surprising matchup, and that does make CLG have a 2-0 win streak this from continuing on from TSM to Team Liquid. Next up, we have FlyQuest versus Evil Geniuses as our last game on Saturday, and for this one we went with the team that are currently sitting in second, FlyQuest, but in actuality it's Evil Geniuses who pick up the win here in a very, very interesting matchup. Next up, we have Immortals versus 100 Thieves to start off our Sunday games. For this one, we go with Immortals over the 100 Thieves, and the actual result was a 100 Thieves win. Very, very good, giving them a 2-0 week. Next up, there is the game that was very interesting. Another quick win here. We predicted a TSM win, and yeah, TSM's maintained their 2-0 weak status, and they beat FlyQuest here in a very, very easy matchup, I would say, for them. So let's get into our Anarchy analysis match of the week. It's Dignitas versus Golden Guardians, and this one we went with Golden Guardians to build up more momentum that they've already picked up this season, that they're already gaining, while Dignitas is obviously falling down. And I was correct in my prediction here. GGU beat Dignitas here in a very good matchup, and I did do an Anarchy analysis on that. It is on my channel, be sure to check it out. And finally, to end out our games on the Sunday, we have CLG versus Evil Geniuses. For this one, we went with CLG, and we went with the wrong CLG win this week, as Evil Geniuses pick up the win here against the team that are kind of stuck at the bottom of the leaderboard. And finally, we have Monday Night Leagues games, where we saw Immortals taking on Team Liquid, in which we go for the Immortals, and surprisingly, they do actually beat Team Liquid, and they do so well here. Obviously, Team Liquid have suffered this week, as CLG beat them on the Saturday, and when it comes to Monday, they lose to Immortals, and their playoff chances are kind of a bit wrecked at the moment. And finally, we have the last game of the week to cover. It's C9 versus Golden Guardians. Now, this matchup, we went with C9, thinking they would continue their undefeated streak. Now, this game turned into a bounce-back game for them, as they just dismantled the Golden Guardians here in a very, very good matchup. So, let's run down our LEC results for you guys. Friday, we got a nice 4 out of 5. Saturday, we got 2 out of 5, giving us a total of 6 out of 5, which is really good, staying above that halfway mark every game. And our grand total is 51 out of 70. As for the LCS, on Saturday we got 1 out of 4, Sunday we got 2 out of 4, and Monday we got 2 out of 2, again maintaining that 2 out of 2 record on a Monday, giving us a total of 5 out of 10, which is still at the positive halfway mark, and the grand total of 38 out of 70 still keeps us above halfway in the LCS. But anyway, let's go over into our Anarchy Analysis Week 8 predictions for you guys, where we have some big matches that I want to cover for you in a very, very interesting manner and means. So let's run down our Week 8 predictions, starting with our Friday games, the first one being Mad versus SK. And for this one, we have gone with the Mad Lions. Obviously, that rough week last week, going 1-1, didn't do so much. They're still in playoff contention, whereas SK is almost at the bottom of the barrel and really aren't doing that much. Next up, we have Misfits taking on Schalke, and for this one we've gone with the Misfits boys. Obviously they had a rough week last week, dropping a game, and I honestly feel that they should win this week against Schalke, who are doing better in the second half of the split than they did at the first half, but obviously they do need to step it up when it comes to games like this. Next up is our Anarchy Analysis match of the week. It's going to be XL versus Fnatic in an all-out barn burner match where the second team in the league takes on a 7th or 6th place team looking for that playoff spot, and if I was XL, I'd be wanting to win this game. Sadly, I've gone with Fnatic as they're just the far better team this season and currently are looking far better than what XL do. Next up, we have probably one of the easiest predictions to make this week. It's going to be Vitality taking on Origin, and for this one, I've gone with Origin over Vitality here, as I just feel that OG are the third best team against a team that's considered the worst in the league. Next up, we have our last game on Friday, which is Rogue taking on G2. And for this one, I've gone with the team that I expected to at least lose one game last week. And I've gone with G2 Esports. Obviously, they had a fantastic week last week. Pulling out a Janna in a game as well is phenomenal. And they played a stellar League of Legends where Rogue kind of lost it against playoff place teams last week. And yeah, they did beat Mad, who is tied for them in positions, but they also lost their other matchup last week, which kind of would have cost them. So we've reached our Saturday games, and we're starting with a interesting relegation, I'd say, bottom of the table clash here between Vitality and Schalke Null Fear. For this one, I've gone with Schalke, as they've looked more promising than Vitality in recent weeks, but I do feel that one is going to be very, very close. Now the second matchup of the day is going to be SK Gaming versus Origin, and for this one I've gone with OG. Again, it's another team at the bottom table in SK that's facing off against a top team in the league, obviously second or third best team in the league this year, and I feel though that OG, while have been looking a bit iffy as one of these teams in the league, I still think that they should be able to beat out SK. And now we're into the playoff matches for the week. We have Mad versus Misfits here, and for this one, a lot of you would probably expect me to go with the Misfits, but it's me. I like Mad. I've gone with Mad Lions over a team that was sitting in second for quite a lot of this season. And yeah, Mad, I just feel, will do a lot better here. Since their last matchup with Misfits was quite close, I feel that this one is going to be a lot more entertaining and is going to be very, very explosive, and one that Mad should win. Our second to last matchup here for you guys is XL versus G2 Esports. For this one, I have gone with G2. There's no other word to say than it's G2, the former Worlds finalists, the team that's bounced back more times than a team can possibly bounce back, and I honestly feel that they should be winning this match quite easily and convincingly, probably whip out something crazy in the top side of the map, or even the jungle, because they like to do that against XL, and if I remember correctly, their last few games of the season were against, one of them was against XL, and they played some crazy picks. So this one, I expect something crazy as well. And finally, our last game here in the LEC. It's going to be Fnatic taking on Rogue in a very, very interesting and explosive matchup that I've honestly given to Fnatic. As much as I want to give it to Rogue, I had to take a while to obviously think about this matchup, and I do think Rogue do stand a chance of winning here, but it's not enough to beat the boys in Fnatic, who are super duper good this season. But anyway, that's going to be it for the LEC. Let's move over to the black and gold brand of the LCS. So we arrive in the American lands for Saturday's games in the LCS, and we start off with a very interesting matchup. It's going to be Immortals taking on TSM, and last time these two faced off, TSM, I do believe, won? And I do believe they're going to win again against the Immortals here in a very, very good and interesting matchup. And if you already know how TSM have played this season, you know what my other TSM predictions are going to be, so you can skip that one ahead. Our second matchup here over in the LCS is going to be C9 taking on 100 Thieves, and with this matchup I've gone with C9. Overall, this team have looked phenomenal this season. Had one hiccup so far, obviously against TSM, who absolutely dominated them, by the way. I'm going to keep mentioning that, by the way. And yeah, I do think that though they're going to continue this split, winning almost every game they play. And yeah, let's move into our next matchup. Moving on to our second to last matchup on the Saturday, it's going to be Team Liquid taking on Evil Geniuses. And for this one, a lot of you again would expect me to go for Team Liquid here, but I've instead gone with the Evil Geniuses, who I honestly think are far better this year. They're looking really good in the second half of the split, and coming up against a team like Team Liquid, who are struggling with the caliber roster they have. They're really not performing well, so it's interesting to see who wins this matchup overall, and one that I want to watch. And our last matchup on the Saturday is going to be Dignitas taking on CLG, and for this matchup we've gone with CLG. Now this matchup is very interesting as both these teams just don't look too good in current form, except for the fact that CLG is starting to pick up wins, unlike what they did in the first half of the split with Crowning. Bringing in Pobelter has done a lot of work for them, and it's really turned this team around, and they're looking phenomenal. Whereas Dignitas don't look too phenomenal. Obviously they switched in Acadian instead of Grig, and that really hasn't done much work for them, as they still were losing to Golden Guardians last week. So yeah, this should be an interesting matchup to actually see when it happens live. It's now time for our Anarchy Analysis match of the week. It's going to be FlyQuest taking on Immortals, and for this one I have gone with FlyQuest. Obviously this team struggled last week in terms of results, and they did lose to TSM, who obviously are keeping their record of 2-0 every week going still. And I do think though that this week it's their bounce back week. They're going to start picking up wins, even if they are facing off against teams that are around them. I honestly think though this should be a very, very good matchup, and it's why I want to break it down for you guys. Next up we have another very interesting matchup. It's going to be Golden Guardians taking on Team Liquid, and this one's interesting for many reasons, as both teams are around the bottom of the leaderboard currently, and TL, everyone expected to be up the top, and everyone did really count out this Golden Guardians team. They really didn't expect them to pick up any, or maybe 1 or 2 wins this season. However, for this matchup, I have gone with the team called Team Liquid. So, this one should be a very interesting matchup. As I've said, it's one of those matches that I don't know if Team Liquid will win, even considering their roster depth and talent. It should be very interesting though, to say the least. Next matchup up is one that I really don't have to put much thought into. I've gone with Cloud9 here, and the reason being is they're pretty much top of the table. They're guaranteed almost playoffs right now, and with like 5 matches remaining, I think that they're pretty much secure for playoffs, and they should be winning this matchup with ease. Even if the CLG is turning it up towards the end of the season, I still think that they're easily going to win this matchup and do it in style. And we're at our last match of the day here in the LCS. It's going to be Dignitas taking on the Evil Geniuses, and for this matchup, I have gone with EG. Obviously, this team are doing very well at the moment, whereas Dig are on that massive slump. However, Dignitas aren't a team that you can just write out. They're still a very, very strong squad, and this one is one of those very close matches that is quite hard to actually predict. That being said, we've gone with EG here. Should be very interesting to watch, and I honestly cannot wait to actually see. And finally, we're at Monday Night League. We've got 2 matches to cover here, and we're going to make this pretty quick. We have FlyQuest taking on 100 Thieves here, and for this one I have gone with the 100 Thieves. Obviously a very strong team here that are doing quite well. They had a very strong and solid week last week, and I honestly think that this week is the week they shine and show up and pretty much dominate themselves against teams like FlyQuest, who are in pretty big contention for that top spot, shall we say. And yeah, this should be a good and interesting game. And finally, we have our last matchup of the week. It's going to be TSM taking on Golden Guardians, and for this matchup I have gone with TSM, obviously the strongest team currently in the league based on last week's performance, and also because we're keeping the 2-0 record going. Very good team here, should win without any issues, and one that I want to win, honestly. But that's going to be it for this episode of Anarchy Analysis Predictions. If you enjoyed it, leave a like down below, subscribe if you're new or if you want to, and I will see you guys later. Peace out.